Look, I can't be doing everything for you. That fat bastard Porter's going to see me one of these days and I'll get fucking nailed. Oh, come on, darling. You're a nightmare, aren't you? I used to be the same. Mum always said I was a pain in the neck, always bawling when she was trying to get stuff done. Mum used to work for one of them Ponzi magazines. That's why I had to move up north to Preston. It's the newest city in England, you know. Oh, I was dead excited. Shouldn't have been. Boring as fuck here. Mum's job was to make sure all them people on the front cover of the magazine looked right. I used to watch her. It was like magic. She'd give them big old smiles and scrape off all their fat. Anything not perfect, she'd just rub out. I just don't know how she did it. Rub it out and they'd look great. They'd look beautiful, like dolls. Problem was, it made me sort of sad to look at all the ugly people after that. All them people that look sort of fat or spotty or just sort of strange, you know? But Mum made it seem real easy to look just right. At school, Hutton Grammar, I was never bright, so sports was always my thing. And I'd always been big, like my dad. They used to call him Monster Cocks, which I thought was because he was built like a tank, but because he had a massive dick. He died in the Falklands. He was a sapper, part of the Royal Engineers. Had a bit more up top than me. Mum always seemed a bit afraid after Dad had gone. She seemed sort of smaller. She didn't look right. I guess that's why I wanted to get big, like Dad had been. Make things better, protect her life, you know? I was sort of keen on going down the gym after school, because it was out with rugby and girls and that. So Mum, for my 18th, got me my first type of protein shake. CMP Professional. At first it was just a hobby. I'd do, say, 2 hours after school. Not much, like reps of 12, squats, crunches, lunges, flat bench press, barbell curls, the usual stuff. But it started feeling really good. I was feeling better and looking better. I can't remember which one came first. They sort of seemed like the same thing after a while. So I upped my hours and yeah, there was pain, but I could ignore it. I was focused like crazy. I felt I could do anything. I was like one of Mum's pictures, getting tighter and bigger and more perfect. And soon it came. I could feel it sitting at the back of the class. I could feel my traps straining to get out my school shirt. And all the girls, they was looking too. They could see I was different. They could see the strength, the fearlessness. My body was proof of the size of my balls. I didn't need to be a hero. It was enough just to look like one. But after a while, people stopped looking. It didn't feel so good. It didn't feel right. I was still getting a bit bigger, but the change wasn't as powerful as it was at the start. So I started thinking all the same things again. Like why I didn't have a girlfriend. And what the fuck I was going to do with my life. And what Mum was going to do all on her own if I went and... It was like down the gym I felt perfect. Unstoppable. And then suddenly nothing was perfect anymore. Dad always said, the more you sweat in training, the less you bleed in war. So I signed up. 4th Battalion, Duke of Lancaster's Regiment, training every Tuesday down Kimberley Barracks. We was the new boys. Lancs they called us in 4th, the babies. Hauled in one day and pretty much shipped out the next. Direct service to Basra. Unsure whether we had a single or return, that's all the lads said. We didn't have a fucking clue what we was doing. But I wasn't bothered. I was there to fight. End of. I was pretty popular too. Apparently it's quite comforting having your ass covered by a lad built like a brick shit house, you know? About halfway through my tour, the day came. The older squaddies had always said it. One thing will happen, one day, and will never be the same. Mine came 24th of June 2007. It's my 22nd birthday. We're creeping in some sleepy suburb. Warrior tanks was following us up. Drivers were spiked and tension was up. They were chewing coffee granules till they dribbled black. But all was calm. We was just having a nose about. I'm out front. Suddenly it was a fucking Yank Humvee. They're all charging through, shouting, "Get some!" Patting out bullets like it's a fucking fairground ride. My lot hit the deck. I'm squatting, low, behind some rubble, waiting for the storm to pass, when boom! There's smoke, and I could hear screams, but muffled like, and I'm down. There's pain in my left leg. Those tosser Yanks have woken a mean fucking beast. I looked down and the whole of my left leg, hip to toe, skinless. It was like the bullets stopped, like there was silence. I stared. My leg was red and bloody, not a patch of skin on the thing. I could see all the muscles working, all the ligaments twitching. I couldn't even feel the pain. I touched it. It was soft, warm, huge. It was the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. And then suddenly the pain, the smell, the stink of burning flesh. I screamed. Ah! There was no way I've seen service after that. God, burns all over my leg. They took the skin from my arse and patched it together. Scraped bits off, had bits on it. Fucking fascinated me. And as it healed, I missed it. Seeing how perfectly constructed I was beneath it all. I guess it was Dad's influence, the engineer in me. But I swear I'd never seen anything work so well. It was like all Mum's front covers, all them perfect men and women. They were nothing now. Even getting ripped wasn't the same. The buzz is underneath the skin. That's where everything is right. So I started working here. I'm a stripper. Boys. Dead ones. They asked me to peel back this skin, but real careful like, because they use it for people with burns like me. And now slow off all the fat, so they're ready when the medical students come in and, shh. I know, it's alright, darling, I know. The medical students use them for their anatomy classes. It's not right to talk about in front of them, you know. I work during the day, and I hide when the porters swap shifts. When everything's dark, I creep out. It's awful quiet and somehow calm. And they're all just lying there. And I can just be with them. Sitting a while. I give them all nicknames, like all the squaddies used to do. Like Dad was Monster Cox and I was Danny Boy. So over here we've got Holy Joe. Not because he's religious or nothing, but on account of the hole they left when they cut his pacemaker out. Apparently they make crematoriums explode. Who needs that at a funeral, eh? But then there's Bruiser, through there. I don't know why he came in a little banged up, but you know, he's like a father to me. He just listens and listens for hours. And here she is, Mouse, my little mouse. Because she's so small and fragile, but so perfect looking. I look after her real well. I never let her get cold or leave her on her own for too long. She'd get lonely like Mum did. What it is when someone's willing to sit with you, all exposed and vulnerable like they are. It makes you want to share. It makes you tell them things you never tell anyone else. Because they don't mind if you're big or strong or if people like you. They'll listen anyways. And you listen right back. Listen hard to that silence, beneath all the noise. And you can hear them, breathing, and real quiet now. All quietly. Their heart starts to beat.
in mind. I'm not sure what I did have in mind. Probably a whisper of a happy ever after. You know, wearing matching cardies, sharing digestives. But I never thought I'd be stupid enough to pin anything on it actually happening. It's easy for the Cinderellas and Sleeping Beauties of this world, but we're a little low on route planners for Prince Charming and Prince Charming. Serious lack of fairy tales. And this certainly isn't one. I think we can all agree that coming into work half an hour late on a Monday morning and finding your boyfriend hanging from the rafters by a Hermes scarf, well, it's not exactly happy ever after, is it? That bloody scarf. I've always maintained that a high price means high quality, but who knew Hermes could take a man's weight? And let's be clear, he was no skinny little twink. He was a big, fat, chunky. He was never going to wear it. I don't know what I was playing at getting for him. He wasn't the scarf type, you see, Hermes or otherwise. I spent my teenage years trying my very hardest to look like Cyndi Lauper. Him, no. Going where the button flyer is it was his idea of exciting. Where is that bloody ambulance? You can't just be up there like that. I guess the rush isn't on when resuscitation heroics are out. More or less a removal job now. Heavy load, lads! Mind your backs! His big purple face is dribbling all over an M imprint. Ugh. Why he chose the bloody stockroom. It's not exactly like he was being shy. Putting a Hermes noose around your neck, well, it's not exactly the same as popping a few pills and drifting off, is it? He may as well have done it in the front fucking window. Nice bit of performance art. But no. He wanted to save this one just for me. One-man show. He was never in it for the art. All that, we caught the wave of the YBA, you see, all that Hearst and Emin nonsense in the early 90s, where you could piss in a pot of formaldehyde and sell it for $1 million, as long as you did it loud enough and in front of enough people. Dingy Hoxton warehouses and precocious teenagers sticking 2 fingers up at the establishment like it had never been done before. Like this time it would crumble at the sight of their shit-for-brains art and polysyllabic waffle. And all of them led by the grand high witch of overpriced nonsense, Miss Tracy Emin. Now, Tracy dear, what you've done here with this little bed piece is just not do your washing in a long time, and what's happened is you've come across looking like a bit of a grubby slut. So come along, pumpkin, let's pop you in the shower and get all this tidied up. Oh, he hated that Tracy Emin, and it took a lot for him to hate anyone. He said she was selfish. I mentioned it might be because we were stood in front of a 10-foot photo of her scooping money into her lady garden. He said no, she had selfish eyes. That she was turning tragedy into a commodity, and that was unforgivable. Oh, you'd bloody love this, wouldn't you, Tracy, darling? World's most boring man recovers old birthday present from flamboyant boyfriend and hangs himself with it. I wonder how she'd flog it. Something simple, get to the very core of it. Probably some of those embroidered stickmen things. $5 a piece for a game of hangman. He hated it. The drama, the hype. He tried not to. He read everything there was to read. He really felt that if people were paying all that money, there must be something in it that he couldn't see, bless him. He always tried to see the good in things. Invariably, it wasn't there. See? It wasn't his world. It was mine. Oh, and I loved it. The parties, the glam, the feeling you were getting away with it. Free booze, free food, free drugs, people knowing your name. Recognition, it's short on the ground, you get it while you can. But he never needed it. Not like me. I'd be raving my tits off in Dayglow and he'd have a pint and go home early, boring sod. Didn't like the noise. It was the same at the openings. Print fairs, biannuals, he'd lurk. He'd actually look at the art. Whilst I schmoozed. Made us contacts. Did deals. It's who you know, not what you know. Always has been, always will be. He just never understood that. He felt as if things should succeed on their own merit. Not anymore, love. And he never used his gayness either. And gayness is some pretty serious ammunition in the art world. He just didn't have very much gay in him. What I mean is, he was the least gay I'd ever met. Oh, well, excepting this recent episode, which, if he doesn't mind me saying so, is somewhat queeny. He drank Stella. Hated gyms. Never wore a pair of matching socks a day in his life. Practically heterosexual. It was his niche. Totally normal bloke who happens to fuck men. Please keep off the grass. I was the yin to his yang, the Vivian Westwood to his Marks and Spencers, the Saint-Tropez to his Bognor bloody Regis. And he needed me. I made him sure of who he was by constantly reminding him of who he'd never be, of who he'd never want to be. He was safe and sound on his patch, the only straight gay in the village. Then, all of a sudden, about 2 years ago, out of nowhere, he's overrun. In come the queers that aren't queer. They're getting married. They're wearing wellies and walking black labs. They've got people carriers and kids instead of drug habits. The back alley had become memory lane and sodomite became suburbanite. The puff had evaporated. These days, being subversive is more of a hobby than a necessity. Even the names have changed. Puff, queer, fairy, fudge packer. They're not whispered or spat at you anymore, they're hair products. Club names. Magazine titles. Turn on the telly before work and watch Lorraine Kelly rub puff into her hair. So it all stops. All changed. There's nothing left to hide or defend. Why do it in the dark when it's all over bloody GMTV? He hated it. How was he meant to tell himself apart? All that acceptance, you've never seen a man so lost. He had nowhere to go. He'd been sucked in, invaded by normal. Finally, Emin's getting old. That's where I got back from before this. I was at the National Gallery. 20-year retrospective, start showing the wrinkles, love. Get a little bit of distance on it, and it looks even more like bollocks than it did in the first place. If only he could have seen that. If he could have stepped outside of it all for long enough, got away from this place, got away from me, he would have seen that this isn't it. That this world of overpriced nonsense wouldn't win. The faithfulness got to him. Ate away from the inside. I could see it happening. I watched him crumble beneath it all, sitting on the couch, eating himself into oblivion. Oh, there's more macaroni cheese in that corpse than I can bear to think about. But I didn't do anything. I told myself he knew. That deep down he could see that this shallow, shameless world of men with millions pandering to the tantrums of teenagers like Emin, of queers desperately trying to stay queer, that he could see it for what it was, see me for what I was, a joke. But no, he thought we wanted more. He thought if naked and dirty wasn't enough, then it was time for post-op or paraplegic, and he didn't want to see it. He didn't want to see me scrabbling around in the dirt looking for the last bits of different that were left, the not yet exploited. It was me. It was the fact I was still doing it. That's what he couldn't stand. If we could have both laughed at it from the sidelines, then fine. But he didn't. He thought all of it was me. But what if I'd stepped down? What if I'd stopped? I couldn't carry him. I tried to get him down, lift him from the knees. I did. I had him in my arms. I tried to take his weight, but he was too heavy, so I had to let go. let the Hermes take the strain. I stood there, watched as his bloated purple head lolled forwards. There was the shock factor. First time I'd felt that in over a decade. And so perhaps this was his parting gift to me. To remind me what it was like when people stared. The thrill of shocking. How it had been when we were something to look at. So this is it. The final fling for the queers at the fringes. The underground fairies. A little souvenir of when difference existed. And he thought this is what I missed. What I wanted. I'd have given up the drama the day I met him in all his beige glory. I've been bored of pushing the sodding envelope for half a bloody decade. He just didn't know. I thought he could see that I was playing make-believe. But he didn't. I never told him that he was home.
Flight BA293 to Washington. This is the final call. Can all passengers please proceed to gate 13?
July 7th, 2005. 10-second snapshot. A goofy young Asian guy is in front of me buying a Mars bar. I'm in a drugstore, King's Cross Station, London. He turns to me. He's short 10 pence. I give it to him. Take it easy, huh? It's early morning. I'm in a suit. I look down, I got slick shoes on. I walk out to the front of the station. It's summer. It's bright. I look up and I see the big white letters scrolling across the top, and I board the number 30 bus to Hackney Wick. Well, that's all I have that morning. Snapshots, shards and flickers and facts. Here's the facts. My name is Miles Cooper, born Washington, D.C. I've won everything I've ever touched. At age 24, I was the most successful broker Merrill Lynch had ever seen. I was the glory boy of the trading floor, making more money than I knew what to do with. My father was planning my biography before I was out of my teens. He used to say to me, Miles, 15 to 50, make sure there's not a blank page. You are going to hit the top and keep on going, boy. In April 2005, the DC office decided my skills were good enough to export. So I was going to London. Tick, 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 boom. I boarded the number 30 bus to Hackney Wick. 10 minutes before Hasib Mir Hussain had boarded the bus himself after I'd lent him 10 pence and he pressed detonate. He killed himself and 13 other people that day. I, the one American on board, got out alive. I figure that would have pissed him off, right? Yeah, maybe he didn't catch the accent, or maybe he was grateful for that 10 pence, so he decided to give me some space. I incurred some memory loss. Things broke up a little, fractured, so to speak. Everything from before the accident had a hard time holding together. University College Hospital informed my family of my injuries and told them I'd return stateside as soon as I was able. Merrill Lynch were covering the costs, so I was booked to fly back to Dulles Airport, Washington, D.C., August 2nd, 2005. My mother and my pregnant wife were waiting for me. They were excited to be having me home. I think a lot about Hasid Mir Hussein, you know. They printed his photo in the newspaper a month after the accident. I carry it with me here in my pocket. You know, he was young, kind of dopey looking. He looked lost. I remember his face when he asked me for that 10 pence. He smiled at me. He didn't look like a murderer. He looked like a kid who was happy to have 10 pence. I'm glad I lent him that money, you know. I owe him. The night my flight left, I stayed in Heathrow Airport in a coffee shop. I just sat and watched the world walk past me. Everyone was hiding behind newspapers or had music in their ears. You're all acting as if someone was watching, performing in their own tiny little music videos. And I watched all those people, like a million little Charlies, or hunting for the golden tickets, or desperate to believe the chocolate factory still exists. And then the sun rose and I walked. I walked out of Heathrow Airport, I walked onto a train, and I walked out of Paddington Station, and I walked through the city of London. That was the day I walked away. Eventually, I walked into a tailor's. The guy asked me what kind of suit I wanted. I had no idea. I said, a suit like this one. I said, I got 3 suits like this one. I went to Starbucks. The guy said, what kind of coffee do you want? I said, coffee, just coffee. He says, yeah, but what kind? I said, yeah, surprise me, just coffee, all right? I ordered a cab. I ordered a hotel room. Which room, sir? I don't care. I don't know, it doesn't matter. For the first 6 months after the explosion in Tavistock Square, I woke every day at 6 a.m. I ran for 2 hours. I showered, I dressed, I read the newspaper front to back, and I was ready for my day. During those 6 months, I stayed in 15 different hotels. I fucked over 200 women. I consumed 167 grams of cocaine, and I drank nearly 2,000 units of alcohol. By December 31st, 2006, I was nearly dead. During Christmas week, the world had afforded me no human interaction. Early in the new year, I started getting low on funds. So I returned to Merrill Lynch and explained that the accident had led to my absence and necessitated my resignation. As I'd hoped, I received a handsome golden handshake. I was speaking to my manager, Billy Driscoll, 15 floors up on King Edward Street. He says, they want you home, Miles. Yeah. I have a responsibility to tell them where you are. Yeah. You know they think you're dead, Miles. Yes, sir. He didn't call them, though. I don't know why. Maybe he thought they were better off without me. It would be the first thing Billy Driscoll and I had ever agreed on. So, I was dead. A year and a half after the accident, and I finally died. Yeah, I could stop running. If I was dead, I was free. Yeah, free of the suit, free of the wedding band, and free of fatherhood. I could do what the fuck I wanted, guilt-free. You know, after all, you can't blame a guy for dying now, can you? Huh? Well, I felt like the elect. You know, like I'd been given a second bite of the cherry. I spent 3 months feeling and acting like a superhero. With Hasid Mir Hussein, Merrill Lynch, and death as my benefactors, I was loaded and liberated. I looked right, I talked right, and I fucked right. I was the American all-star once again, only this time without any of the weight. I cheated the system. Yeah, I fucked a lot, I drank a lot, and I spent a lot. Paris, Berlin, Munich, Tokyo. I ate the best food, I drank the best wine, and I stayed in the best hotels. And people fucking loved me for it. They chose to be around me. Yeah, men marveled at me, and women wanted me. Only now they couldn't have me, because there was nothing to have. But they didn't know that. To them, my inaccessibility was a mark of quality. They couldn't get what they wanted, and women will always love you for that. It was so easy. Onto yachts, into penthouses, into pussy. It's easy as fucking pie. And did I feel guilty? Did I feel guilty for the life I was leading? No. No, the actions of Hasib Mir Hussain on July 7th, 2005 had made one thing very clear to me, that my life was incidental. I'd stayed alive because it had taken time to get the change for my fare out of my pocket, because I'd chosen to sit at the front and not the back of the bus. I'd stayed alive because, having lent him his 10 pence, I thought he might want to make conversation with me, and frankly, I wasn't in the mood. I was alive because I was an antisocial fuck. So I was alive by chance. Now ask me if I feel guilty. You show me the point of right and wrong when the difference between dead and alive is so tiny. What? What, do you think I should be scared of not going to heaven? Here's all mine, huh? And the payback? The justice for walking away, for spending my daughter's first birthday fucking a hooker called Lizzie? There is none. If you agree to walk and keep on walking, if you stay dead, it all just disappears. Conscience, guilt, it's bullshit. As long as you don't look back, it's easy as fucking pie. But eventually, you'll wonder. You'll wonder when it happened, on which day it was you could no longer pick up a phone, on which day it was you could no longer open the door and take back what you'd given away. You'll realize that your escape has trapped you, and that you killed for someone to give you an out, for someone to do something that justifies your behavior.
This is the final call for passenger Cooper to board flight BA293 to Washington. This is the final call. Can passenger Cooper go straight to gate 13?
Last week, the Missing Persons Bureau received a call. Miles Cooper was alive and staying at the Dorchester Hotel, London. The bomb blast of July 7th caused him retrograde and anti-retrograde memory loss. He called it global amnesia. 3 years later, and his memory had now returned. He could now remember snapshots, shards, flickers, and facts. Here's the facts. My name is Miles Cooper, born Washington, D.C. I've won everything I've ever touched. My father used to say to me, Miles, 15 to 50, make sure there's not a blank page. You are gonna hit the top and keep on going, boy. On July 7th, 2005, I had lent Hasib Mir Hussain 10 pence to buy a Mars bar. 10 minutes before he boarded the bus to Hackney Wick and pressed detonate. I now remember that I'm a husband and a father, but unfortunately nothing else of the last 3 years. Blank pages, so to speak. Today is my daughter's 3rd birthday. I'm flying home. My family's gonna be happy to see me. Easy as fucking pie.
creature was stunning. Naughty Chloe, will you shut up and listen? The stockings were hung by the chimney with care, in hope that St. Nicholas soon would be there. I know we didn't. Kyle, darling, what's wrong with you, man? Off you go with your sister. A boy like you's not scared of Santa, is he? What is it? Oh, darling, I can if your dad's going to be here in the morning. But what I do know is that he loves you very, very much. And he sent me the biggest, bestest present in the world for you to open in the morning. But he wrote me a wee note to say you weren't able to get it unless you were in bed by 12. There's that grade. Go on, away you go. Out like a light. You got 10 minutes before I'm coming to check. He's got them. The biggest, bestest present in the world. What cack? Now that selfish cunt cost me double every fucking year just making sure they didn't realise what a pathetic shite he is. That I'm too skint. Got caught at work back in November, fiddling gift vouchers out on the scheme. Now I was nicking the odd bundle and selling them off half the price. Everyone's happy. Except for Mr. Tesco's, of course. No, he wasn't too pleased. Smug bitch in management caught me and gave me the push. 3 fucking weeks before Christmas. Is she having a laugh? Sorry, Bones, Christmas is cancelled this year. As if! No, I'd started thinking up some pretty scary ideas for making cash when I seen this advert in the local newsagent. Housewife seeks home help to aid in Christmas preparations. 10 quid an hour, 8 hours a week. Oh, brilliant. What the fuck kind of Christmas takes 2 people 3 weeks to prepare for? No, I did I can, but I needed the cash. This house, right? Fucking mental. It was out Corstorphine way. Yeah, proper big square number, fuck off front door, little path, 4 square windows. It was like the pictures Kyle brings home for his school. Actually, I take him why he's not drawing concrete blocks with wee orange windows. Mind you, he's still drawing me and his dad holding hands, so he's clearly an optimist. The woman I was working for, her name was Mrs. Beaton. Yeah, she was really old and sweet, always making me cups of tea with these wee ginger biscuits. She had this big old family coming up from London for Christmas, so she had to make puddings and cakes and pies, but she was old and she got really tired dead quick. I was sort of glad I could give her a hand. Thought it was a bit rough, none of her lot stayed to help out. Now they'd just come, stuff their faces and fuck off! And she'd say that's what mothers were for. Guess she's right. Don't think any of my lot will stick about once they're old enough to go. Why would they? It's getting cold. Oh, would you look at that? It's snowing. Oh, please stay till morning. They'll love that. There was this one afternoon at Mrs. Beaton's. She had called it Stir Up Sunday. She had come in from walking the dogs. I was doing the ironing in the kitchen, listening to the Archers. Her choice. No, I've got no patience with a bunch of twats that were getting fucking raggy over a duck. And after I covered, no sort of ceremony about it, Mrs. Beaton starts pulling bags. And bags of currants and sultanas and nuts and cherries and all of it swimming in eggs. It was like Jamie Oliver's Christmas special, but with a bit of class. And in her big old kitchen, full of heavy plates and heavy cutlery and heavy old tables and chairs and big orange lights and little candles, and her, in her red apron, hair all pinned up, all elegant like. And she was playing these Christmas songs. No, we're not talking Wham or Mariah Carey or any of that shite. No, this was a choir. And it was dead beautiful. I watched her chuck all the stuff in. No, she kent exactly what she was doing, like she'd been doing it for years. Like it was some sort of ritual. She asked me to grate an orange for her. I felt stupid for getting sort of excited like a kid. Isn't that pathetic? Here I was doing some old dear's ironing and peeling a fucking orange and I could hardly contain myself. Well, life's not so bad that some old dear's skiff work was going to make my day. But it did. It really did. God, it was the smells. Oh, Christmas at home when I was wee and Ma was about, it looked alright, but it never smelled of much. Apart from Mum's fags and a wee whiff of Iceland turkey. But the smell of Mrs. Beaton's kitchen, my God, asked her what it was. Cloves mostly, she said. Cinnamon, your well-pithed orange, of course, Bobby. Bit of brandy, nutmeg, sugar and spice and all things nice. She laughed. She found herself quite funny quite a lot. She was sweet though, there was no aggro to her. She was just sort of calm and quiet and just solid, Ken. And as I was standing there, all misty-eyed, looking at her, wishing I could take her home and give her to my kids for Christmas, here we go, Burns. Happy Christmas. Have a better mum. She turns and says to me, have you made your wish, Bobby? Wish? Wish what? Wish while you stir, dear. Oh, you have to wish, that's the whole point of it. All right. Silly me, eh? Forgot about my wish, didn't I? So I started making this wish. About Christmas and my kids and that. That maybe it would be nice if we, maybe for once could, I'm sorry. And like a stupid bloody kid myself, I started crying and Mrs. Beaton looked embarrassed, which is fair enough. What if they're putting a blubbing into her Christmas cake? She said, what on earth's the matter, dear? I don't know, I said to her. It's just that it's Christmas, and your house looks like Christmas, and it feels safe. And my flat, it doesn't look like Christmas, and it has never felt safe, not for one single fucking day, and I don't know how to fix that. But I want to fix it, because why can't my kids have what you have? Why can't they have a Christmas like this, with all the smells and the carols and the big old tree all covered in twinkling shite and everything that just feels rock fucking solid? What did you do, Mrs. Beaton, that I never did, eh? Did you work harder? 'Cause I work fucking hard and I can't make it look like this. Or did you just have some good luck? Or maybe you just got given it all and you didn't do a fucking thing. She backed into the armchair in the corner when I'd been shouting. She looked scared. Just a wee old lady. A wee old lady with me all up in her face. There was silence. Felt like hours of it. And then slowly, I just sort of gave up. Mrs. Beaton got out of her chair and looked down at me, this pathetic, greeting mess. I thought she was going to shout or throw me out, but she just wiped her hands down her apron and said, come along, Bobby. Pull yourself together. These cakes won't make themselves. She drove me to the bus stop that night, got out the car, handed me my things, not even a whisper of what had happened. As I was walking away, she caught my hand. If you must cry, Bobby, do it quietly, where they can't see you. Children are like animals. They can smell the fear on you. Plenty of people will show them real life. You, Bobby, you must give them magic. Birthdays, Christmas. It just has to be better than real, that's all. She hugged me. Felt like Mum wrapping me up in a towel out of the bath when I was wee. All warm and red and bubbly. So this is it. I'm gonna give them the best Christmas they've ever had. And when they have kids of their own, they'll say, oh, do it like Nan does. Go on, do it like Nan does, and I'll hide wee treats for the bones. And I'll make the biggest, bestest puddings you've ever seen. And you know what? You know what? It's gonna smell great. Fucking great. Just you wait. It's gonna be magic. People talk about guilt as if it's an instinct. That the second you do something wrong, you feel guilty. I don't. What I'm feeling is power. You always join the story at the bit when they're sorry, when they're desperately begging for forgiveness. But there's something before that. There's now. In the space after the act and before all the consequences, when you've got away with it, when you're walking out of an unknown door, back down unknown streets, and it's still thumping in you. Dawn's breaking, dew's settling, and you're skipping back home, flying on the thrill of it. You can taste it. Even back here, the quiet click of the door, the tiptoe in. The alcohol's wearing off too quickly. I want it back. Our bed and all the stuff that makes up life, our life, and I don't feel like a traitor. I can lie here whilst another man's saliva dries off my lips, and I can remember another man's face bearing over me, and I enjoy it. I enjoy that all this seems new again. His alarm's going off in 10 minutes. He'll roll over and grunt, curl himself round me like a monkey with its bloody mum, just like every morning. He won't notice that anything's different. He won't see that I have mascara down my face, or that my hair's wet because I've been running in the rain to get back before he wakes up. He won't notice that I haven't been here, that I'm drunk. No. For him, I became invisible a long time ago. That's not even snoring, is it? Listen! It's definitely more aggravating than breathing, but it doesn't quite have the conviction of a snore. No. Just a slow dribble of air, as if it was engineered to be as aggravating as humanly possible. Sort of like a tiny pony having a tantrum. That's nice, isn't it? A little wind from the baby. Having been with someone else, it's like I've left the room for the first time in years and come back in and realised that this is the man I once thought I might marry. Ah. And here we have the spread. Allowing air to all orifices at once. In vain hopes of ventilation, the male of the species spreads himself, much like a starfish, allowing little or no room for the female of the species to coexist with him in the domestic habitat. It's as if she wasn't even there. It won't even occur to him that I could have done what I have. There could be all three of us in this bed and it still wouldn't even cross his mind. That much trust. Yesterday it makes us strong. This morning it makes him weak. Look at him. The sleep of the innocent. Or ignorant. Either way, it's bliss. For once, I have him in my hands. 10 minutes time, he wakes up and I make the call. I tell him or I don't tell him. Let's say I tell him. He'll stare and gulp. Breaths. Big, heavy breaths. Then the anger will rise. He'll stand and it'll seem as if something might break in him. And I will just sit in silence. I'll squeeze my eyes shut and try not to hear him, because he might say some things that are true about what kind of person this makes me, and I don't want to hear that. I don't want to see what I've done in his face. But he'll make me look at him, and I'll remember how he can be soft. He'll try to make me understand, to make me feel what he is feeling, realise how much I've ruined, but I won't. I won't feel what he is feeling because I haven't had anything taken from me. What we've lost, I gave it away, but he's had it stolen from him. So really what he'll feel is a sense of thievery, and everything I thought was soft and feeling will have been his ego speaking. And he'll want to know who the other man was, how big his dick was, if he was better in bed. This baffles me as a question. I mean, it's bold, isn't it? That. Was he better than me? I feel I want to offer some kind of recap. Show him some clips of the last 6 months, then give him the chance to rethink the question. Here's the top 3. Him burping Vindaloo on me as he ejaculated. The synchronization was incredible. Then there was asking him to stop so I could remove his toenail clippings from beneath me because they were digging into my back. And then finally, the 7-pint impotence. Yates had it spot on. It's like trying to stuff a muscle into a slot machine. And yet he'll still ask, was he better than me? And if I reply honestly, yes, Ben, he was much better than you. It's barely even a contest. Then I'll be lying. I've done the same. I've asked that question. I do remember how it feels. I remember being the unwitting victim, sleeping quietly and peacefully, and then it's said, well, you just know. You're angry or more desperate to stop in the moment when you accept your insignificance. When you realise you were not enough. So you try to defend it. Was she better than me? Bigger tits? And you realise you wouldn't be asking if the answer wasn't yes. And then Then, the visuals. You see him with her and the room and the cheap knickers on the floor. You'd like to think they're cheap. They're probably not. They're probably more expensive, more see-through, more size 8 than yours have ever been. And then you see his hands on her. His face in the moment that you are entirely forgotten. You wonder whether in the hour that he's fucking her, if you even crossed his mind. You know you didn't. And then you wonder whether in the past year and a half, if you even crossed his mind. And you know you didn't. But he was never entirely forgotten. No, I didn't forget him for a second. He was in every pant, in every gasp, in every drink that got me drunk enough to want to see what it might take to make me visible again. Such deliberate infidelity. It won't have been enough. Stay or go. Tell him or don't tell him. To him, it doesn't make the slightest difference, you see. Once you're invisible, there's no way left to win. No buttons left to push. You see, the first person to stop loving has it. Get left in the game, and you're fucked!
This is the house my mother built. This is the house that lets the outside in and keeps the inside out. There are no don'ts, no can'ts, no time to get up and no time to be home, just in and out. Always in and out, and everything always open. This is because when I was 6, Mum had discovered what Dad had done. What closed doors were really for. She called a builder man and told him to take all the doors away, every last one. The house became a big, toothless mouth with gaping gaps where all the doors had been. Soon she found people to fill up all those gully gaps. She filled the house right up with people like grains of multicoloured sand. In they'd pour and out they'd run. Rivers of funny-looking faces and brightly coloured clothes. Mother had 100 gods. She made idols of all of them. Money, sex, beauty. She had the strongest, wildest laugh, as if nothing would ever matter ever again. She's the spoiled kind. The hair, the nails, the men. She takes what she wants. Nothing matters. She's what you call young. Freedom, she said. That was my blessing. She said I was part of the luckiest generation ever because girls like me had knowledge, and knowledge was freedom. Mother made sure I knew all the truths before the world even began to speak to me. She made sure I'd seen all there was to be seen. But there was just one thing that was mine. A small box I kept beneath my bed for all the thoughts that hadn't been hers first. I'd whisper my secrets onto tiny pieces of paper, and then I'd blow them into the hole at the top of the box, and then I'd plug my hand over the top, just in case they ever decided to grow legs and escape. But they did escape. Right through all the cracks where all the doors had been. Mother found my box and took it to her friends. And they poured out all my secrets. And those tiny paper balls, they scurried across the tabletops looking for somewhere to hide, but there wasn't anywhere. Those bohemians with their red wine mouths laughed my secrets out loud. all the dark I'd ever had, all the dark that was mine, they poured it up into the light. Mother said that I was darling and funny and delicious and odd, and that I was very silly for having secrets. I ran away that day. And that was where I found you. You were slouched against a tombstone in the dark backyard of St. Barnabas. You were strong and silent, as early like a comma. I slept that night between the dark crimson walls of the room you gave me. Oh, the smell of incense up from the dim cloister below, there in the eaves, safe and sound, where I heard sermons in my sleep. There were doors, locks, keys, commandments. Remember me, honor me, respect me, thou shalt not, thou shalt not. It was like sherbet on my tongue. You showed me the freedom found behind locked doors. The freedom of silence. Never seen and barely tasted. Things there were firm and forbidden. And I was found. So, there, in St. Barnabas, I made a brand new box of secrets, and I piped them in and I plugged them shut. A new colony of thoughts, of you. And you never came to find them, and you never poured them out. On that last Sunday before they found me, you told me to wait for you. Beneath the back arch where all those concrete saints stared down at me in the cold. You stood a little way off in a pool of streetlight. And as you came closer, the width of your shoulders cast shadows across my face. I was humbled by your presence. You smiled down at me and asked if I was ready. You took my hand. You placed the scars of your palm against my skin. Those man-made lifelines that made the gypsy scream. The look in her funny black eyes. She'd never seen the likes of you. No one had. So, I let you take me back to St. Barnabas. It was colder now as the sun lowered behind the black scratchy trees. I stared up at you in awe. I listened to you in your silence, and there was strength in your secrecy, and yet you, the king of men, seemed a little vulnerable. I clung to your back like a child. I traced my fingers across that black tattoo on your back, across your shoulders and down your spine. You hadn't said a word when that little needle thudded into your back. Not a sound. And you were silent still, but your breath was heavy. Like a beast that you had slaughtered, it was near. You roused me. You came above me. Eyes black as death. Dredging me. And then unlocked me. Like a door that had never been opened. Palms. They found me, lying face up on the cold stone where you had left me. Mother took me back to this doorless house where she and they and all the world cried and held me tight. They called you a million names, found 1,000 new words for evil, 1,000 new ways for telling you this. The story of you. So, they took me back to St. Barnabas, they found my box and poured out all my secrets, all my thoughts of you. And those tiny paper balls scurried across the tabletops looking for somewhere to hide, but there wasn't anywhere. Those bohemians with their red wine mouths poured out all my secrets, but they stayed silent now. Nobody laughed. I was no longer funny and delicious and odd. You see, they fear the faith you've given me. They fear that I believe in you. And this is your testament. This is salvation. If only they would listen, but no, even this they're taking from me now. They will take what is dark and pour it up into the light. They think I'm a dirty teenage child of a bohemian. And they think this is the price you pay for too much freedom. This is not a price to pay. The price has been paid. This is the only hope of redemption now. They will take this child from me and smite it because they no longer have the lungs for faith. I've been returned to this boundless house where laughing women break down doors and take what is not theirs. Women that steal childhoods from their children so that they can wear a youth that is not their own. There is always a price to be paid for what we take. To open doors that should be shut. To take what is not freely given, it is not a choice, it is not freedom, it is a violation. You are gluttonous thieves, all of you. When you take, something must be lost. Something breaks and someone, somewhere, is left wanting. Don't let them take this from me. It is what he has given me to give to the world. It's all I have. It's all you have.
Miss J. Hunter done! Miss J. Hunter done! Burnished and burnished by Aldershot's son! With strenuous singles we played after tea! We in the tournament, you against me! Oh! God! There we go, Robert! All done! God, I always forget how the old tetrameter really sets a pace. I'm puffed. Oh, well, off you go back to your wife then. Parents' evening tonight, isn't it? Ah, well, luck to Amber, and don't be beastly to her. Oops, sorry. I said, well, don't be beastly to her. I mean, I'm sure she's just creative rather than academic. I mean, we can't all go to, oh, you're done, excellent. Well, if you could just pop the check on the table, and I'll see you next week. Bye now, bye, bye, bye. Robert Kendrick. Lovely chap, massive fan of Betjeman. Hats, slacks, 50s sensibilities. Hasn't dealt with the end of it all one little bit. He still longs for the soft twilight of a Surrey evening. Cricket on warm afternoons, cardigans, Pims. He's quite the old romantic, actually. He demands I recite Betjeman every time we have a cup of tea. Robert shares Betjeman's passions for the more robust lady, the strongly adorable tennis girl's hand. I try my best, but I'm no Sharapova. It isn't so difficult getting the scansion straight with all that flailing. You know, when he demands I climax in those bloody dactyls. Well, it's a tricky business, I can tell you. Still, Betjeman it is. It's so hard for him. He despairs of his eldest, Amber. She's doing some gender politics nonsense, and he doesn't understand all that. No. Robert's education is more of the classical genre. Homer, Virgil, Plato, which I always get mixed up with Pilates, but totally different. That's where we started, actually, the classics. Then we tiptoed up onto Don, where we sucked on country pleasures. A little bit of raunchy Rochester. We got very quickly bored by all those mild-mannered Victorians. And then on to Betjeman. Blissfully short and comprehensible. Really cuts down on a lot of bedtime reading. Very few people appreciate the kind of dedication my line of work requires. Oh, Listen to me gabble. Only 10 minutes till Thomas arrives. Better lay the table. It's Saturday morning, you see. Busiest time of week for me. It's ever since that Saturday morning kitchen lot set up has been tantamount to an invasion. Suddenly, Delia was off, and that Anthony Worrell Thompson was on. The results for my boys have been disastrous. Delia, Drew Leith, even good old Mrs. Beaton in her day, they were role models. Kept us girls on the straight and narrow family values. These new Anthony Worrell Thompson types have got wives all across the country salivating over their slowly rising souffles. You know what it is? It's all that feminist guff. It's led to such injustice. Along comes Nigella and it's, oops, television's off, wives suddenly not interested. The moment their lovely hubbies want to indulge in a little gastro-porn of their own, it's not it's disgusting even. Look at her, they say. She's so greedy, so gluttonous, feeding her big fat face. Oh, look! We'll take my next client, Thomas Bishop. Perfect example. He came to me last week as having a post-coital vibe that he likes. And, well, do you know what he said to me? He said, Millie, do you know what? I said, no, Thomas, what? I saw my wife orgasm last night, Millie. I said, why, Thomas, surely that's a good thing. To a Marks and Spencer's advert, Millie. To a bloody Marks and Spencer's advert. Just as all this cream cheese came oozing out of a burger. She squealed. I've never heard her make that noise before, Millie. They're right, you know. This is not just food. This is adultery! Sad, isn't it? Watching it all fall apart like that. So I take in these lovely hubbies. I take in the waifs and strays. I say, come one, come all. Come Rogers and Roberts. Come Harrys and Humphreys. Come to Millie Fawcett's reach. Oh, wipe your furrowed brow, press your shirt, and offer a good old-fashioned bonk, all within the hour. A traditional service and traditional prices. Anyway, due to Thomas's newfound gastronomic insecurities, his demands became somewhat specific. Initially, we thought we could combat the problem with a little role play. Only all we could find was a carrot outfit, and he had to sort of topple me into bed, and penetration was a nightmare, so we ended that quick smart. Besides, he decided that to triumph over food was not enough. If his wife lusted after grub, he must become said nosh, and there we had it, the breakthrough. So he became the banger, and I, well, let's just say I've had mashed potatoes in some very funny places. My tea. You see, absolutely everything is on the move for these men. Corduroys in a quiet country pub simply don't cut it anymore. Women are being spoiled. They want new age, new money, metrosexuality. My boys don't understand all that. Lovely Thomas with no piece of pak choy if it boshed him in the face. My loafer-wearing warriors weren't made for yoga and tofu. They are men, soldiers, well, child soldiers, raised to make money and climb ruthlessly through what was once the glittering hierarchy of the British class system. And then it came, with the blackest of Wednesday, the economic crash of '92. I was only 16 at the time, a debutante trained by my mother, new to the profession, but I could see what was happening. I could sense the terrible change in the air. I remember the gasps and cries coming from my mother's bedroom. The tears of great men soaked her pillow that year. And as the economy crashed, footsie falling left, right, centre, my mother's taking a sword. In they came, the soulless sound of 1,000 wing-tipped brogues crossing the threshold. The day we pulled out at the ERM, my mother held the Right Honourable Sir John Major in her arms. He cried 3 points isn't the end of it. A 13% fall in the Conservative majority. Who can stand after that, I ask you? What man can hold his head high knowing that Labour's got his bloody hands on power? They were done for. My Rogers, my Roberts, my Harrys, my Humphreys, finished. Oh, and it didn't take long for their wives to philander. Fitness instructors, plumbers, mug-ugly football types. These were the men with money now. Whilst my educated angels of the 80s, my proud boys, stood faithless, broken, and unemployed. So I came to my profession with a passion for rejuvenation. Here my boys could feel history, legitimacy, and institution. My family has been in the business of marital supplements for over 500 years. We're proud to call Nell Gwynn one of our own. And we won't stop now, no sir. See there, above the door? So they know, no matter what the price, we will not falter. I shall never bed a Beckham nor bonk a Barraboy. The Fawcett's bees will mount their steeds, but never the hoi polloi. Sorry. And I've been challenged on it too. Oh, Susie booked me a client last October. She does all my admin. I find it such a fiddle. Anyway, she let him buy on account of his title. Title which proves that even our dear old queen can have an off day. I was wearing my crimson corset. We usually find aristocracy like a bit of bodice ripping, so leg up, crop out, ready to receive my thoroughbred, when who should walk through the door but that bloody Alan Sugar. Oh, I was incensed. That verby-faced, 4-foot epitome of everything that is wrong with this country. Predictably vulgar, he simply dropped his trousers and demanded a little harder, father. Well, I firmly told him and his tic-tac to leave the building quick, smart. You see, we cannot be dealing with this infiltration, this weakening. So much that is so beautiful will be lost. Everything with meaning is under attack. And these boys were once the best of British, and now they're laughable. These were the chaps that made Britain great. Let's keep our gentlemen, eh? And give them supper at 8, meat and 2 veg. We'll let them play cricket at the weekend. I'd give anything to keep that alive, almost anything to make fun of this one. Oh, Millie, you silly old stick. Thomas will be here soon. I'd better get those potatoes on the boil.
I often dream I'm a Victorian gent. Suited and booted, top hat and all. Head high, nose in the air. I'd have those funny little white things that fit just over the top of your shoes. And with the nimblest of fingers, I'd apply myself to the tiny spines of buttons running up the side of the clean white material. Buttons. Them buttons. Black buttons. Patent. Shining. Glinting into the beady little eyes of all them Victorian gutter snipes that'd snatch at my feet as I swaggered past. I'd be dead good at swaggering too. Elite swaggerations. Captain Swagger. I'm like a horse. The kind of genitalia that makes a swagger a practical necessity rather than a aesthetic choice. The hands stuffed into those unfeasibly small velvety little pockets. Feet clacking, teeth glinting, and I'd be off to frequent a wenchsome establishment. The wench. My wench would be called, let me think, she'd be called Ruby Tease. She'd love me. Proper, unquenchable, salivating, lusty type love, snatching at me, needing me all the time. Her feet would stay strapped tight into gripping, turgid little leather hooves of shoes, studded with those filthy little golden buttons, globular and glinting, and I'd rip them off, hold her fast, and do her every which way. All those lovely Victorian ruffles scrunching in fistfuls. And she'd never stop smiling, because she loved me. Proper love. Cuddles afterward love. Free into my freedom. Paying nothing and taking everything. Magic. Pure human magic. But then, when it's late and dark, and I'm sitting here, deep into year 3 of this 8x10 grey igloo of an existence, and I'm so bored of staring at my own knob that I start to play, say, that game of, if my knob got trapped under a rock whilst out climbing in the Rockies, as I may well be of a day, my only chance of survival was to lop the fucker off. How would I go about such a thing? Skirting through thoughts of penknives or razor-teeth raccoons. When all of a sudden Ruby returns to my thoughts. Only this time, she ain't playing nice. In this little pondiment, she's ripped the shiny black buttons right off of my shoes and they're glinting between her teeth. She's awfully angry, see. Her salivating, lusty type love has turned to the incendiary kind. The kind that busts out of things, that breaks doors, strains seams, scratches cheeks and draws blood. And I'm scared. I envision my Ruby spitting fury and I know from the fire in her eyes that I have become the only man that matters to her. And so, in my little Victorian, stuck-cock dream world, I do the only thing I can do. The only thing that's kind. I smite her pretty head against the wall. Dash her brains. Oh. And all of a sudden, like, in my little cell-bound fantasy, my knob is free. I am free, out from under that colossal boulder. But I ain't got no buttons on my shoes. I always went for Adidas Superstars, half shell, not whole. Greater flexibility for the all-star ducker and diver, see. But in here they don't let you have the laces. So, I had to resort to the Stan Smith Velcro variety. I told them I could just as easily top myself using Velcro, but they quite sensibly asked for a demonstration. The truth be told, I came off looking a little silly. I did get my way with the work shirt situation, though. When you enter the unit, they issue you a costume of shirts, t-shirts, and trousers, or previously been inhabited by other ne'er-do-wells, trusting, I suppose, that criminality ain't contagious. For transport into the unit, they gave me this work shirt. Buttons straight up the front. The fiddly little see-through fucking kind. I flipped my fucking lid. No way, I screamed. And I kept screaming. Till they brought the psych in. He had a kind old doctor face. Said I was unusual, but he'd seen it before, referred to my case notes. Sparky little number he was. Saw I wasn't lying soon enough, and I got to wear these beautiful button-free round necks for the rest of my stay at Her Majesty's pleasure. I'm no freak. There are loads of people out there with the same problem. You read stuff about folk getting nosebleeds when they touch them, or making their mates wear round necks on nights out, because the idea of a full button shirt makes them vomit. I went to this group therapy thing once. When it started, I was 16, I think. Mum made me go. Because the lawyers had claimed my button phobia was at the root of my apparent aggressive disposition. I told the court it was a big bad four-holer, cut free of the granny's cardie that made me belt her around the head. Nothing to do with her recently replenished pension book. Although I must admit, in hindsight, it was probably a combination of the two. This therapy shit was mental. It was like group hypnotism, except no one really got hypnotised. They were all just there with their massive made-up button phobias, trying to get away from wives or parole officers. There was this one guy, Tobias, some loser joke of a man who'd been persuaded to go to button therapy by his wife. He'd convinced her that he was so scared of the little buttony munchkins that he had to stick 'em up his arse when he found one. Apparently that was the only place they couldn't get at him. But it was clear as day his button therapy was more of I like it up the bum and I've got a wife therapy. Kinky fucker. It angered me, you know, that the Tobiases of this world were just out for thrifty kinks and were using my very serious and troublesome disorder as some sort of excuse. I was forever getting into scrapes because of it. Buttons just seemed to sit on the sidelines of my life and just jump in all their terrifying discoid splendour at moments when all I needed was a clear head. Just like with that granny. The free-falling freedom of 3 centimetres of circular plastic, and suddenly I'm clocking her around the noggin and stealing her bag. Similar thing happened with a young Brazilian lady called Sildo, the very sound of which, as you could imagine, made me want to do the most horridest things to her. Admittedly, I was asking for trouble, as she was part of my buttony nutters therapy group. She asked me back to hers for a little after-hours therapy, all sweet and unassuming like. Well, I wasn't to know, really. Was I? There I was, all deboxered, standing to attention, gazing up at a ready-to-roll Sildo, when swift as a fecking whippet, my new phobic friend opens up the drawer of her bedside table, pops on a pair of latex and apparently button-resistant gloves, and starts pelting me with them, 10 to the dozen, all shapes and sizes of them, screaming, "Dirty, nasty, wrong button lover! Dirty, nasty, wrong button lover!" She'd been through a good 10 repetitions and I had fucking awful bruising by the time I managed to rebox her and get the fuck out of there. Nut job, I tell ya, button nut job. You see, with behaviour like that, and with my heightened sense of anxiety, due to my Johnson sitting there all vulnerable and eager, it's little wonder I threw something back. Admittedly, it didn't have to be a bottle, and no, I didn't have to smash it first, but it was close at hand, and I was very angry. The buttons made me do it. I swear to you, they freaked the shit out of me, and they were everywhere. I needed to make her stop! And once she'd gone very, very quiet, and all her dark Brazilian hair just lay about her quiet head, then I was calm. And sorry. Really calm. And really sorry. You see, it's all sort of explicable, isn't it? Sort of understandable with just a little hindsight and a comprehension of the mitigating circumstances. Factor in a few buttons here and there, and suddenly, I ain't so evil after all. Tomorrow morning, having served my time in here for the granny and that bottle I stabbed into that filthy little buttony Sildo, I am walking free. I will pop on my metaphorical top hat and velvety waistcoat and stuff my dirty little hands into the teeny little metaphorical pockets and clack my dapper shoes that glint their dazzling black leather into the eyes of all the pokey grubbers at my feet. I will strut to see my ruby tees and clench fistfuls of her Victorian ruffles as I gruntingly exhale the pleasures of my freedom. And I hope I won't be back. Stuck back in here with my cock under that rock again. cooped up and riled, tensile and angry. But I don't know. All depends, doesn't it? Buttons or no buttons?
It's all about them buttons.
I'm telling you, mitigating circumstances. Sykes said so. See, I ain't so evil.